It's March 3rd, and you're watching the MBA show!
Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes. Tom, what's our headlines?
It's a sad day, MBAs.
Oh.
Yeah, bit of a sad news. B schools are cutting back.
Oh.
Yeah, and listen to some of the horrible stuff that we're having to live without. Tuck has centralized their recycling program. Yes, huge cutbacks. Harvard is not running their AC at night. At night, Nero.
This seems like these are rich people cutbacks. This is like the kind of things you should be doing even in good times. You want to know a real cutback? Ohio canceled their entire full-time MBA program.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
It's okay.
The Mayans were right. It's coming to an end.
Okay.
We're not bouncing back from this one. This is it. This is it.
Whoa. So Ohio said that they're going to focus on their part-time MBA program and they just can't serve full-time MBAs. So they're going to put their emphasis there.
Okay, I'm over it.
Look, this is
Back to the bubble.
Well, look, this is like the silver lining. This is like, in downturns, you can finally get the political will to do some things that are really hard to do during the good times.
Okay.
And you can finally muster people together.
So what you're saying is basically all-you-can-eat lobster buffets are not a required part of the MBA curriculum.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Well, we'll all have to learn to live without that. Happy to do it for the American people. Speaking of lobster dinners.
Yeah?
This is a lot like med school, I feel like.
Please, good God. Well, anyways, speaking of med school, I wanted to introduce, we have a guest with us on the show today. Our guest is Jonathan Sheffy. Jonathan is a second year at HBS who's worked in the healthcare industry. Can we give a hand for Jonathan Sheffy? So Jonathan, you've worked at Amgen, you've worked with the FDA, you've worked at the Broad Institute, and you actually run one of my favorite blogs on healthcare issues, jonathansheffy.com. It actually has one of my favorite taglines. Could you share that tagline with us?
Laughter may be the best medicine, but let's cure cancer anyway.
So
So
that's
listen,
Jonathan.
Yeah, so I've got a thing about healthcare, right? So, pharma, biotech, healthcare, life sciences, that all means the exact same thing to me. I know that I'm broken. Fix me. Go.
Well, I really like talking about healthcare, and actually, as it happens, I carry a chart with me everywhere I go. Every time somebody asks me about healthcare, if I might, do you mind me sharing it with you?
Please, that would be
Please
great.
bring it
That would be
up.
great. Oh wow, it's really lucky that you happen to have that with you.
What an amazing coincidence. And what is all this going? This is still pretty complicated. What's going on?
Yeah, and
here?
we'll have this. If you can't see this on air, we'll post this up on the site.
Yeah, let's do a quick close-up.
Or if you're watching this on one of your itty bitty phone screens, go to thembashow.com and you'll be able to see a full blown image of this.
So the three big categories look like our products, delivery, and payers.
That's right. So essentially, the products that doctors use, medical devices, things like pacemakers, pharmaceuticals, the drugs you're all familiar with, biotech. Almost think of it as another form of drugs.
Yeah, and tell me, I've never been clear, how do pharmaceuticals and biotech differ? Like, what makes those two things different? Aren't they all just drugs?
Well, in one sense, yes, but in another sense, pharmaceuticals usually refer to small compounds, things that actually literally are physically smaller than biotech drugs, which tend to be large molecules, synthesized proteins.
How big a difference are we going to talk about? Like,
It's about 1,000-fold difference. So, I mean, if we were talking about Tylenol, which weighs about 150 daltons, that's a unit of mass. That's
based on the James Bond scale of drug measurement,
which is what we often use in the drug industry. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, 1,000 times. It's like my paycheck before and after the MBA program.
Good luck with that, Tom. And then biotech drugs such as Enbrel are actually, I said, 1,000 times larger. So, I mean, if Tylenol is your bike, then Enbrel would actually be the size of an unfueled private jet.
Wow. Does the jet get bigger when you fuel it?
Only when you fuel it, Tom.
And what about this last one, diagnostics?
Well, that's actually a growing category in the industry, and that's something where it's really about tests. So you're thinking about very simple tests like urine and blood tests, but these are now evolving to include things like molecular diagnostics. And molecular diagnostics are certain kinds of genetic tests or other types of specific markers that we can detect in patients.
My understanding is that that's you, right? You're a diagnostics guy?
That's the area that I'm really excited about, and I'm interested in working in after business school.
So out of all these categories,
Well,
where are
let's get through what's the other ones? Like, what's delivery and what are payers here?
So delivery has to do with the actual delivery of care. So that's the actual doctors, administrators of the hospitals and clinics that you see here at MIT or or at the hospitals across the river.
And what about these guys?
Well, payers refer to essentially health insurance companies, but the people who actually pay for care. So those can be private companies, you may know Blue Cross or United Healthcare, and of course the government, which is actually one of the largest payers of healthcare.
Yes, the government. So we've been hearing a lot about, Obamacare, all kinds of regulations that have been passed, and I'm just curious, how much of that money has been earmarked for MBAs?
There are opportunities in the government for MBAs potentially. Actually, that is starting to happen on a slow basis, but I'll get back with the latest budget figures.
So where should MBAs go to work?
Yeah, where are the opportunities for MBAs in here?
Well, I think it really depends on the kind of MBA we're talking about.
Come on, we're commodities. We're all like, look at my suit. That's why I have this.
Well, I mean, so for MBAs who, for example, I think are very interested in marketing, for example, there are lots of opportunities broadly across the products category.
Okay.
In medical devices, pharmaceuticals, biotech, diagnostics, there's lots of opportunities for people who are interested in being on the commercial side of the business, simply promoting these products to physicians to get them to adopt them in their practices.
Got it.
So then thinking perhaps about a more operations-focused MBA, there's a lot of demand for that actually on the delivery side. A lot of hospitals are right now trying to adopt things like the Toyota production system, Kaizen. These are concepts that are fairly new to hospitals, but things that they're starting to realize that they need in order to become more efficient.
Okay, we got marketing, we got ops. What about the finance guys?
Well,
like me, where should I be?
As a finance guy, Tom, I think you do very well in the payers category.
All right, I like the sound of that.
A lot of what happens in this, of course,
Government work it is.
a lot of what happens in the insurance companies is, of course, around the pricing of risk, which, for those who worked on Wall Street, might know a thing or two about that.
All right.
So you're saying that what MBAs did to Wall Street, they now need to do to the healthcare profession.
Something like that.
So how do you go about getting a job at one of these companies if you're an MBA?
Well, a lot of these companies have rotation programs that are specifically designed for MBAs. So, for example, many of the pharmaceutical and biotech companies have commercial rotation programs where they put MBAs into, for example, a sales role for 12 months or 18 months, and then move them into a marketing role for a similar period of time, and sort of guarantee them a position for a few years. And that gives a chance for them to get to know the company, for the company to get to know them, and for them to get some really solid grounding in the company's products and the culture.
That sounds like gold for an MBA. It's like guaranteed job for a couple of years. You get to see all these different areas. Are there enough of these jobs to go around, or is it really hard to get one of those?
It's certainly possible. I think did you think about qualifications and such? Or?
Well, because my understanding of if you want to be a pharmaceutical sales rep, your primary qualification is that you're going to want to be a Pac-10 cheerleader. You're going to want to have a luscious bosom, or you're going to want to be a man of just rock hard abs on guys. Seems to me like the primary qualification to be a rep.
Thanks for noticing. I appreciate that.
Because
I was formerly a pharmaceutical sales rep as well.
I'm not sure I would have guessed that, but
yes. To answer your question, I mean, these programs do exist. Companies are hiring into these programs. They are available. What helps for a lot of these programs is to be familiar with the science background, whether from your educational experience prior to an MBA, or your work experience in between undergrad and your MBA are both very relevant.
And when you say relevant, like how relevant are we talking? Like when you worked in the industry, how many people would have had a science background? Like what percentage?
Pretty much all of them would have had some sort of familiarity, or would have shown their willingness to pick that up very quickly. Found other ways to demonstrate it. People I talked to at HBS were interested in moving over from another industry to healthcare. I strongly encourage to take leadership positions in healthcare clubs. Those are ways that people who don't have that background prior to an MBA can show their commitment and their interest in the sector.
So if you want to get into healthcare, it sounds like you're going to really need to commit to it and just signal the hell out of out of what you're doing, like internships, leadership positions. If you're a career changer, that it's going to be a big investment of time for you.
Yeah, it's very beneficial. I mean, because a lot of these cases, when a recruiter's looking at your resume, you are going up against other people who do have this experience, and those recruiters do prefer it.
So what's I'm kind of curious what's the salary range for these jobs that we're talking here, roughly?
Well, I mean, broadly speaking, I'd say it's actually very comparable to the MBA range for a lot of industry positions. So, I mean, to be fairly confident in my estimate, I'd put it in the 100 to 150 range, which I'd say is very similar to a lot of other industries.
So the MBA average salary is $90,000. So I think we've established now why. I know lots of people are excited about healthcare, and that must be why they're excited. I mean, is that why you're excited about healthcare?
It's nice, but I think for myself, the motivation is really about having the opportunity to use science and business to help people. I mean, when I was
people say that, but is that true?
Well, I mean, for me, the highlight of my career was being a pharmaceutical sales rep, and I had a patient who came up to me and told me that their drugs, that the drug I was selling saved their life, literally, and had a very profound impact where they had gone in to see the physician, were doing very poorly, and they believe they're still alive today because of the drug that I was helping make available. So for me, that was very satisfying.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of those who want to have that kind of opportunity, let's help you out with some jargon. Tom, what is our jargon?
Some kind of erythro potion.
Erythropoietin.
It's
Jonathan, what?
Come to our rescue,
Yeah,
man. Don't let us
please.
flounder like this.
What is this?
This is erythropoietin. It's
Erythropoietin.
Oh, yes.
Of course, that's erythropoietin.
As opposed to erythropoietin and quantum.
So, what is erythropoietin?
It's a signaling protein in the body that helps with red blood cell production. And there are drugs.
But there's a million things that are like that. Right? There's a million things in the
hard
body
to pronounce
that are hard.
drugs?
Yeah, exactly. Why is it important to be able to pronounce these words?
I think that's really just part of doing your basic homework on a company. So if there are pharmaceutical product companies that an MBA is interested in doing, part of the basic research is learning about the drugs that the company has on the market and in the pipeline, and talking to some of the perhaps more scientifically or medically oriented people around them, and asking them for help, being able to talk about the drugs in the interview, because they may be asked, what do you think of our products? What do you think of the pipeline?
Right.
And having the ability to speak intelligently about that will again be really valued in an interview.
So you're saying you don't want to get to that third round interview and show up and say erythro potion? That pretty much seals
It might
the
hurt
deal.
you.
Yeah,
It might hurt you.
The wrong direction.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Why don't we move on to our business school tip of the week?
And our business school tip of the week is cold email.
It's a sales tip, actually. Yeah.
This is a sales tip. So, Jonathan, how did you started out in consulting and you went to work for Amgen? How did you get your job at Amgen?
Well, I was really interested in moving into the industry, and what I did was I actually cold emailed many alums of my undergrad institution and asked them for informational interviews.
Like how many are we talking?
Yeah.
I sent about 120 emails.
Wow.
I was,
How long did it take
I
you
was
to
really
do that?
interested in leaving consulting at the time.
And we can quantify that want in emails. What was your desire to this? About 100, 120.
Yeah. And that was basically an opportunity to, I looked up in the alumni database a lot of the alums who were at industry companies, Amgen and others, and looked at people who were on the business side, reached out to them, and fortunately I had a pretty good hit rate.
What was your hit rate? Do you know?
I would think it was somewhere in the range of about 25 to 40%.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that's a great hit rate, but does prove, and I think one of the big tips out of this is that cold email works, but it takes volume.
Right.
If you send 5 emails and you just get 1 response and that doesn't go anywhere, it's not because cold email doesn't work, it's because you need to send more of them. Maybe like 115, potentially more of them.
So Mira, what's on your radar?
So on my radar this weekend, my wife is out of town, and that means 2 things in the Kazakov household: slasher movies and chow mein straight out of the delivery box. Jonathan, what are you up to this weekend?
I'll be attending the Sloan Bioinnovations Conference on Friday, and then I'll be going to Long Beach, California to attend the Bill Conference, which is a sort of fringe festival around the TED Conference.
Nice.
TED Talks are known.
Excellent.
Nice.
I'm very excited.
And let's see, I'm going to a dude ranch in New York, and you have no idea how hard it is to find an all-Republican dude ranch in New York.
I actually
But I found
suspect
one,
it's
and I'm
not.
going.
Yeah, I suspect it's not that
Go
hard.
far enough north.
Anyways, Jonathan, if folks want to get in touch with you, if they have questions about healthcare or industry questions, what's the best way for them to reach you?
I'm always happy to talk about healthcare, and I am on Twitter, so it's my last name, Sheffy. Please do reach out to me. Love talking about this really important field to myself and I believe to society.
Okay, so here's the important part of the show. Here's where we send us off. So we sort of announce our names via Twitter. So
Okay.
what you say, nice and loud. I just say, I'm at Sheffy.
I'm at Sheffy.
I'm Miro Kaz.
I'm the real Tom Rose, and you've been watching
The
NBA
NBA show.
show.
All right.